Ladies and gentlemen, let's go.
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Well, actually, I live in Delaware now, so does that make me a Delawarean?
Sing it, girl.
You know, Beyonce is my friend in my head. Jay my people sometimes, too.
Yeah. I mean, like, be true, man.
You know, when I was a kid, I had an imaginary enemy. Like, does that make me crazy?
Life as P, presented by Say What Radio.
Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to Life as P, or if you're a repeat listener, welcome back. I'm your host, Phoenix Sash. They call me P. I just want to thank you guys for checking in with me, for listening in, allowing me to get all these thoughts off my chest, because I have a lot of thoughts. I do. If you've heard the show before, you know that I go over like the theme of what's been speaking to me over the past week or so, because I think all of us, not just entrepreneurs and not just creatives, we're all evolving into becoming who we're destined to be. And when we try to accomplish the best of who we are destined to be, there are some things that are revealed to us as time goes on or through interactions with other people that we can strap up and put in our toolbox and make life ongoing easier, or life going forward easier. Yeah, it's probably better said. So what's the thing? What has been talking to me? And sometimes I don't notice things until like I start getting on the mic and be like, what is it? But I think the pattern of events, or the pattern, it's a really nice car. The patterns of messages that have been coming to me over the past week or so is sometimes you just got to start over. For some people, it seems easier than others, but I know in my experience, I'm usually pretty hesitant to start over. I end up starting over anyway, but I sometimes take a long time to play a situation out or let it get deeper or go further before I am 100% in agreement with we got to start over. And I think the thing that made me think about it was working on a manuscript. So for those of you who follow me and follow my books, you know that I released Touch Me First on July 31st. It's on Amazon Books as well as Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, Kindle White Paper. And then on September 4th, I released the first episode of Savage Fever. Now, if you've been following me, you know that I've been talking about Savage Fever. If you've heard any of my BLP interviews, I've been waiting to drop Savage Fever forever. So whenever I talk about I have a series coming or I'm writing something episodic, it's probably something to do with Savage Fever. So I'm hyped. I'm like, bam, it's finally here. So I released episode 1, and because I am a procrastinating perfectionist, I am still writing episode 2. Now, I know the story, and theoretically, I've written this episode probably 50 billion times, including in my head and on paper. Yet still, I'm past the deadline in which I intended to turn it in. I'm not comfortable with that because I am someone who is very adamant about making deadlines. Thankfully, the deadline was to myself and not to anybody who can hold money or contract over my head because of it. But still, I need to be accountable to myself. So I get like 7,000 words in, and it's going to be, you know, another novella, but I have to give this story in doses. I can't give it at once. It's really like television in a book, for real, for real. But I'm trying to write episode 2. I'm 7,000 words in, and I don't feel good about it. But I didn't feel good about it at 6,000 words. I didn't feel good about it at 5,000 words. It was a struggle to get to 7,000. Not because I didn't have any material, and not because I was stretching something out or I was receiving a block and couldn't work my way out of it. Nothing to do with that. It just didn't feel good. The cadence wasn't right. I like to write music. So when I write a story, it's like a song. Like there's a rhythm to it. There's a feel for it, at least for me. I don't know if that's necessarily communicated to anybody who reads my work, but it has to feel right to me. It has to go on a certain rhythm. And it just didn't feel good. So I finally chucked it up and was like, look, I'm already past the deadline, so I might as well do it feels good. I'm going to start over. So I started over yesterday and I got 1,000 words in and was like, okay, you know, I'm going to try to use this weekend to really get to where I was in terms of a word count so that I can get this out to you guys. But when I think about that and I think about how it relates to other stuff in my life, I recently had to fill out some paperwork. If you can hear nature in the background, I'm sitting outside. It's a beautiful day. But I recently had to fill out some financial paperwork. I had to list my salary for each year over the past 5 to 6 years. And so to go over the salary that I was at when I left corporate America, and then when I was working for myself, and then when I had to go back to take a contract job, and then when I went to the, current sponsor that I'm at, just looking at my salary changes of how like it was at one spot, and then I left corporate and it was at basically nothing. I was starting over. I wasn't new to writing, but I was new to the writing industry. So I had not built my connections. I had no network. I had no experience publishing a book. I had lots of experience writing, but to put something together in an actual finished novel where I would like finish the work, I had not done. I had not self-published before. So using a digital platform that was new to me. And if you've ever been privy to a conversation with me and my homegirls, you'll know that for me to try to figure out a digital program, I got to be so focused. So it was just a lot, but not a lot of money. Not a lot of money. So looking at the list and everything of how my salary changed over the years and how, honestly, I'm still not making the money I was making when I left corporate the last time, because it wasn't the first time. But I also did a career shift. So when the contracts that I take on for corporate are slightly different than the type of work that I was doing in the past. I'm now more human resources focused, where prior to I was an executive assistant. So I went through a number of industry, whether it be departments, whether it be creative or human resources or project management. So I'm not starving though. I'm not dying. My bills are paid. And sometimes you got to start over. That reset, that leaving corporate and having to start with a lower salary and then climb my way back up and still not be there, but I'm somewhere. And not only am I somewhere, but I have incorporated in my life a path that allows me to do what I love to do, what I'm passionate about, what I see myself doing for the rest of my life. Because finally, I was brave enough to start over. When I look at everything around me, when I look at my daughter, with all the losses that I had prior to her, but being surprised by the pregnancy and being very afraid of what could happen or what I could repeat or what experience I could go through, I started over and I just let that go. And once I had her, just her life just reminded me that it was okay to start over and start reinvigorating the push and the drive to pursue a career in writing. And it's only been a couple of years, guys. And I feel like, I've got my contract. I'm a BLP author or B-Love Publications author. You guys listen to me on the podcast. Yo, if you was here from the beginning, growth, yo. Okay? I love you. So, I have a number of books that are published. I think I might have 8 or 9 on the market, or Soil Sheets, Cookies and Crumbles, Delectable, Touch Me First. 5 books with my current publisher. I'm very excited. And those 5 books were between last year and this year. So I'm very excited to be able to build my catalog and put stuff out there, and definitely to bring Savage Fever. And Savage Fever has seen so many facelifts, so many versions, so many portions. There's so much story there. I'm just excited to be able to finally put that out. But I don't think I could have put it out if I didn't start over. On a number of occasions, it's seen different titles, it's seen different character names, it's seen different storylines, but within a whole vision. It's quite exciting for me. And letting myself, there was a time where I created the base of the story, which will be the middle season, but I created it as a capstone for my graduation project when I was getting my master's. I shopped it for a little while as a script because it was full 4 seasons that I had written out of television. I had full episodes. I had what's called a show Bible. I had summaries. I had character depictions. I had everything. So I shopped it for a little while, but without an agent, without anybody really that I knew, that was very difficult. And I sort of set it down for a little while. I had a whole business plan behind everything, but I lost my momentum. This is before like Empire was on television, before Power. And so the show was kind of like in those lines. And to the point where when Empire debuted, people were calling me like, oh my God, congratulations. And I was like, that is not my show. I wish, but it is not. But I figured at that time that it was over for that idea, for that dream, for that thing that I was excited about. So I had put it down for a while. And then once I got signed to my publisher and I got familiar with other people who were doing series writing, and I started to dream again and started to think about, do I have a series in me? And I was like, I damn sure do. I'm one hell of a series. One hell of a series. So that's when I talked to my publisher about allowing me to do these novellas and these linked stories and this episodic sort of storytelling as a pet project, because guys, I love you, but sometimes readers are really, really harsh and they make these public statements about, if you're going to do a series, let me see it completed and stuff like that. And it's like, there's a reason that the author did it as a series. There's a reason that they're releasing it in doses. And we're not just trying to play with you. This is our livelihood. This is our craft. This is our love. This is our passion. I know for Savage Fever is because when I finished that episode, it took a lot out of me. Because I gave you the shits in that, like, yo, I gave it to you in the episode. So you see how I'm going through the process of trying to craft the second episode. Like when it's over, I'm going to have to take a deep breath. I'm going to have to breathe. So it's not the most popular thing to want to write a series that is not a series of standalones. And a standalone, if you don't know, is a book that you don't have to read any other story to understand it or to feel as though you've read a complete story. So it's not a popular thing to have these novellas, these short. So not only is it not a complete story, but it's short and it's got a cliffhanger and you got to wait for the next one. But I love episodic television. So I'm like, listen, and I'm promising not to have anybody wait too long for the next episode. But again, like I said, it's not popular to do something this way. It doesn't typically soar to the top of the charts unless you have a huge following or unless you've done it before and it was successful, which would typically equate to a huge following. But I was grateful that my publisher let me explore and let me try. And so grateful that she was patient because I brought this to her over a year ago. I was in Miami. If y'all been listening to the show and you remember when I went to Miami, I was in Miami sending her cover options. Like, can I use this as a cover? Use this. She probably like, where the hell this thing at? But Delectable came to me and I started writing, and then Touch Me First came to me, and I have another book that came to me that I'm like 20,000 words in. So just trying to get my head straight. Then another idea came to me. I tell y'all, I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place. And for everyone who tolerates that from me, my God, do I love you? Thank you. Thank you. Because I'm all over the place. I'm trying to get my life together. I am. Because for a while, my house was looking like how my mind looked. It's funky, y'all. It's just all over the place. But I'm getting it together. Things are starting to shape up, whatever. Like, it's going to take me some time. But I see the progress. I see everything is coming together. I'm becoming the person that I want to be. But I have to start over in order to do that. Same thing with my divorce. I was very hesitant to let go of what I had known for so many years. But if I wanted to flourish and have my heart free and become who I want to be, there were some things and some people that I was going to have to let go of, because I'm always hesitant to say that somebody was holding me back, because I don't feel that that was the case. I feel like who he is just isn't in line with who I intend to be. That was a very, very, very difficult decision to come to. Although I had stopped being in love for a bit, you always think like when you're married to someone for several years that like, I stopped being in love this year, but next year I'm going to fall back in love. You're going to do something. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for me. But to admit to myself that I needed to start over was a difficult decision, Because when you're with someone for a long time and you're comfortable with them and you start to think about, people say, oh, you shouldn't move on too fast. And I feel like you move on however you move on. I feel like what's good for me is not good for you. But I do feel like whether you move on slow or you move on quickly, when you are contemplating starting over after a marriage, you start to think about, if I was to ever date again, like, how would I restart being comfortable with someone regularly? Like, I think about crazy stuff like, can I take a poop in your house? Like, I know it sounds gross, but like, I'm like not comfortable. Now you gotta go on dates and hold your gas in, or you gotta like, I never was the person who to eat daintily, so that ain't gonna happen. Or figuring out like, yo, I see this red flag. How red is the flag? Does it mean that I should run in the opposite direction? And I'm still getting my bearings. I'm still getting my discernment correctly. So I run from some people fairly quickly, and then other people's it's a slow jog. And sometimes it's probably worth it to do the reverse. But I digress. I had to admit to myself to start over in order to get all these things in my life in line and live the life that I would like to live and that I intend to live, to be loved the way that I want to be loved, to love other people the way I want to love other people, and to feel like I'm not held hostage by my traumas. I feel like when you are someone who goes through a lot of trauma, not just the trauma that I have, but on top of, there are people who have seen way more trauma than I have, despite how much I've seen and how much I've experienced. It can shape how you make decisions. It can shape how you pick people who are going to be in your life. And sometimes your vision is clouded and there's a ton of red flags, but all you can see is this one little spot that needs to be filled. And if you found the peg to fill that one spot, then you can't see the rest of the board. And so when I finally started to self-heal and, I went through a lot of my healing here on the show, I got to a place where I started to recognize that my decision making was based on my traumas, and I needed to make a change for myself because those traumas were no longer my present story. It wasn't the story I was living in. I had finally gotten to a place where I was in a whole nother book. I was rewriting what was going to be the next chapter, the next novel of my life. So I had to agree to start over. And it's not easy. Listen, I had to ask several people, my neighbors, friends of mine, like, how do I replace my mailbox? Like, do I got to dig the pole out of the grass and then put some dirt? I called my one friend who wasn't available. I was like, oh my God, this is the only person I know who would know anything. And then, in the morning, I didn't want to knock on no neighbors' doors. Thank God the neighbors was outside. And I'm like, y'all, you can help me understand this. Like, am I really going to have to dig a pole out the grass? Turns out I don't. But stuff like that, like trying to, I went to Lowe's and I had to buy a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector. And I'm like, sheesh, like, I don't know which one to buy. I don't know if the one I got is going to be able to hook into the wall where the other one is, and didn't realize that I was supposed to change them way more often than I had. It's just, starting over ain't always fun, but sometimes it is necessary. It is necessary. And I'm grateful for, I'm not going to beat myself up over the time. I'm not going to make it be like I lost so much time because I could have been started over, because I started over when I was supposed to, when I was ready, when I was of clear mind, clear intention, and knew what it was that I wanted to do, how I was going to move. That's when I started over. And I love the reset. I do. And I'm learning to embrace it. When I was a kid, I used to hate writing an essay for an exam, because I would always lose 2 points on the essay because I didn't read back over my work. So they'd circle these minor errors and be like, you could have fixed this, could have fixed this. And I didn't read back over my work because I didn't want to start over. I didn't want to feel like I had to look for what was wrong with me or what was wrong with the situation and start it over. I didn't want to have to clean up and fix it and all of that. I didn't want to do that. But when I went to get my master's in writing, I had to do it. It was a requirement. It was how we moved on in the class, how we progressed, did multiple drafts of things. And I started to really embrace editing because I found that that was where the real work happened. And when I apply that to my life, I'm like, listen, the editing, that's where we're going to make the real work happen. The starting over, to say, I don't want this part in this chapter. So I'm going to leave it in the last chapter, but I'm not going to take it to this chapter. I'm going to choreograph how the next few chapters play out. And there's going to be some instances that come out and jump out, but it's going to go with the story. So since it's going to go with the story, it's going to be there and it's going to go there. I'm going to live through it and I'm going to get to the next side. I'm going to get to the other side of it. So it's okay to start over. Sometimes that's where the real work happens. That's where the real juice, the real good stuff, that's where you find the gems when you start over. So if you're someone who's like trying to figure out like what to do, how to have it as an option, put it down on the paper. You know, I know career changes, stuff like that. Look, leaving corporate or trying to work in corporate while following your dreams and discovering your passions, that's all very difficult, but sometimes very necessary. And if you can afford to take a lesser salary in order to give yourself less stress and more opportunity to live the life that would fulfill you, you're not going to get me to argue. Word. You are just not. So anyway, that's soapbox spiel for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out my work, please go on to Amazon, get Touch Me First. It's my first erotic novel. I think it's a novella. Sorry. But it debuted at #1, so I think it's popping and it's hot. You should get it. Yo, read it with a friend, read it with a partner, read it with some intention, read it with a toy. But Savage Fever, currently out now. I think this is the most excited I've ever been to complete a project or to get it out on the market. This is my baby. I would love it if you support it. There's already like 5 or 6 reviews up on Amazon. It just dropped last week. And I'm just really excited at how well it's being received. Check that out. That is on Kindle Unlimited. I'm not going to make it available on paperback until I have some other stuff that I want to get out that it may be coupled with. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, check it out. If you love romance, my book Delectable, A Sweet Romance is available on Amazon and paperback on Amazon Books. So you can get the Kindle Unlimited, Kindle white paper, all of that. And that's Delectable, A Sweet Romance. And it really is a sweet story. It really is. And if you love cakes and chocolate and so, yo, pick up Delectable. Pick up Delectable. It'll do you right. Anyway, you want to hit me up, get up in my DMs. Let's talk about something. You want me to talk about something next time, or you got a riff with me or whatever, just keep it cool. Hit me up in my DMs. Let's talk about it. Let's chat. I'm at P Writes on Instagram. I'm also at P Writes on Twitter, as well as Phoenix Ash on Facebook. Although I don't know if I can accept more friends on Facebook, but Passion Books, and that's PASHENT Books. I also have that account on Instagram as well as Facebook. So if you're having a hard time reaching me, please reach out via that way. Until the next time when we could exchange power. Love you guys. Stay safe. Peace.